welcome to today's video. This video is all about my Inktober experience. If you don't follow me on my Instagram or my Twitter, you might not have known this, but for those of you who do, you might have seen that I've been posting an ink drawing every day in October as part of the kind of almost global art challenge called Inktober. And it has been one of the funnest and best experiences artistically that I have ever done. I didn't think when I started that I would make the end of the month. I kind of thought that at some point it would just be too much, but I think I picked the exact right amount to be drawing every day, so I didn't go too ambitious, I didn't go too easy to get bored, and so this video is going to be a walkthrough of the sketchbook and some of my tips and tricks and what I have learned through doing a daily drawing for an entire month. So this is my Inktober sketchbook. It is smaller than I usually work. It is square, which is something I don't normally draw in squares, and it has these gorgeous ruffled edges. I decided to do something different with Inktober to my normal style. I went and did a cartoon style. Doing cartoons is something that I have always wanted to do. It's kind of almost where I love watercolour and I love drawing, and it's very relaxing drawing what you see. But being able to take the random thoughts that I have when I'm rock pooling about weird species and put them into comics has been one of the best kind of experiences in getting it out on paper. And the other great thing about it, and whether you believe that you should be doing art just for art's sake, but I'm not going to deny that I didn't enjoy the fact that and was surprised by the fact that people were so receptive to it on Twitter and Instagram. They really liked it. My Inktober posts have got far more attention than any of my other drawings before. People were saying lovely things. So thank you if you commented. It really kept me motivated. Because people were saying that they enjoyed it, they thought it was really funny. It was an outstanding reaction from what I thought it would be. I thought they would just be something that I'm posting online because, you know, it's just a way to keep me accountable, but actually it was really great to see that people were enjoying the experience, and I really enjoyed looking at so many other people's Inktober posts. There were so many good Inktober posts and so many good scientific art Inktober posts. It's like a whole other community world online that I never knew about. Well, I did know about it, but it really came alive in October. So here is a link to a couple of artists as well that you should definitely check out, because I was mesmerised by theirs. And there's probably tons of artists that I have missed. So if you've been following someone cool for Inktober, tweet it at me. I want to check out everyone's Inktober posts. I think this is such a good challenge, and there's such amazing artwork coming out of it, and I want to see it all. So as we walk through this, I'm just going to say a bit more about my experience. So the first day I was thinking, let's do ink. I didn't use a prompts list. So a prompts list is something that either Inktober, the person Jake Parker who came out with Inktober, comes up with a list. So every day it's like a prompt, so it would be like fairy and you draw a fairy, or magical and you draw a fairy, something like that. I didn't follow that list because I knew that cartooning in itself would be quite difficult to fit to that, and because I do marine stuff, it's very specific, so I stuck to come up with stuff at my own brain, which actually worked out fine. I come up with an idea, racked my head every day for one. But I started off thinking, well, it's Inktober, let's do something about ink, and I went with a squid. But I was really struggling on the first day. I felt so much pressure. I had posted that I was going to do Inktober. It was really getting to me, this pressure of doing it. So and the other thing is, I've never used inks before. I've never really inked with inks before, and I did this first one, and I don't know if you can see, but I smudged it straight away. That tip number one, inks smudge. I smudged my hand so many times during this thing. I think in almost every one of these I've made a mistake, and you have to change the way that you draw. So I always started after this, I would start drawing in the top left hand corner and kind of work my way down, and that kind of minimised the risk of me smudging it, but it had to change the way I drew, because I normally draw certain parts first. I draw the outlines and then go in, and I had to really be conscious of where I was drawing all the time, which I think for a larger piece would drive me insane. But for the smaller ones, I could just about cope with it. It's definitely a different media, but it is super fun. On the first day I was struggling. I did this, I didn't particularly like the way it came out, and so I thought, oh, well, if I don't like it particularly, then, you know, maybe I should... in the back of my mind there was like a funny bit with it. So it's basically the squid mum going like, it's time for your bath. And the baby squid was like, I don't want it, mum. And she was like, but you can play with your boat. So it is a giant squid eating and killing a ship. Because I thought, well, maybe that will salvage it. And some really lovely people on Instagram and on Twitter all commented that they really liked it on the first day and that I should keep going. I think I tweeted it out with something like, I'm not too happy with this, but here we go, looking forward to improve. And people liked it at this stage, so I was really pleased. But one thing on this is I did the shading the wrong way here. That really annoyed. I was just so nervous. I can't tell you how weird it was, and it's weird to be sitting and being nervous on your room on your own, which is something that you're doing for enjoyment. But I think that first day was so much pressure to come up with this cartoon style that I freaked out. And then, so the next day I just decided to draw something cute that I knew people would like, but also something that I knew I could try and make cute. I was going for a cartoony kind of cute kind of style. It was just more something that was more relaxing. It kind of went back to a more drawing what you see, but with a bit of a cartoon twist. Was moving back to my comfort zone slightly. And I drew this lovely little otter. Because I want to promote the use of science and art together, I use this as the first kind of one to spread some educational stuff. So otters have rocks that they keep in little pouches, and they use these rocks to break up shells and to help forage and things. Not a lot of people know that they will have their favourite rock. So in this one I said, this is my rock and I hope you have one too. I wanted to spread a bit of positiveness. People the day before had been very nice to me, had given me a complete confidence boost, and I thought, wow, a bit of a rock that day. So, I'm just trying to spread some positive cheer, and that was that post. The next day was one that I was like, right, let's go in with a joke. I'm not sure if people are going to find this funny, but I have had this idea in my head for a while. Let's do it. Nudibranchs are sea slugs. They don't have a shell, and obviously there was also sea snails. And nudibranch has the word nudie at the start, which sounds a lot like nude, or nudist. So I decided to do a comic about nudibranchs being nudes. My favourite bit in this whole comic, which I'm not supposed to laugh at my own ones, but I did quite a bit. I do laugh at my own jokes quite a lot. Was that this guy's like, look away, Karen, and she's like, oh my. It just like reminds me of the woman from The Grinch. Karen is the woman who marries the Grinch. In my head, that's her voice. Is that lady? And that one did super well on Twitter. That went a bit nuts, and it was great because this was early on, and I think it kind of roped a few people in that didn't know about me on Twitter into watching the rest of it. So that was really cool. I love these pages. So the next two, this is my ideal cartoon style, and I was quite surprised that I had nailed it in my own mind on day 4. I was like, great, this Inktober is going great. I'm learning so much already. I don't think this needs much explanation. I love crabs, I love barnacles, and of course I think barnacles are cute anyway, and so of course I would think crabs think they're cute. So that one doesn't really need explaining. Not a lot of people would think that barnacles and crabs are the same species. Barnacles look a lot more like limpets, which are gastropods and mollusks, but actually barnacles are crustaceans like crabs. So again, it was another way to put a bit of scientific art, a bit of knowledge into whatever I was drawing. So the next one was a bit of a joke too, but I'm not sure if the joke hit with everyone, because I showed a couple of people and they were like, what? So these are sand eels, and I just had in my head that if she brought up, you couldn't just buy one sand eel because it's a pair of sandals, sand eels. And I was like, well, what pairing would I call this pair? Since they're going to have to come as a two, are they twins? Are they brothers? Are they sisters? So I went with two rhyming names. He's Louis V and Jimmy C. For anyone, not that I'm particularly into my fashion, but just aware of the brands out there, he's Louis Vuitton and Jimmy Choo, because I think they sell shoes and potentially sandals. So they will be sand eels. That was basically what that was. The next post did super well. I think it was probably maybe my most popular post on Twitter, and who knew? I did this because I didn't have much time that day, and I thought, what is just weird? I was like, right, fine, I don't have much time to think of something, just think of the weirdest thing that you have never seen on the internet. And I have never seen personalities of seaweeds on the internet, and that triggered a whole load of people to like seaweeds. Seaweeds are so important on our shores, like so important. They are basically, apart from like algae and stuff, in, you know, microalgae and that in the food, in the water column, they are the base of every food web on the rocky shore. They provide refuge for homes. They provide refuge and shelter and food. They provide a home for things to live on. Each seaweed has a special adaptation. There are hundreds of seaweeds that live just on the rocky shores in the UK, and they never ever get as much attention as otters or I mean, even stuff like barnacles, which you wouldn't think is more interesting. Seaweed probably get even less than that. And as a way to kind of portray the fact that each seaweed has a different adaptation, I gave them a different personality. So fucus is reliable and you can always find it, but that's because it's adapted very well to living on the majority of the shores. So fucus fasciculosus bladderwrack. It's pretty hardy. It just does. It's one of those seaweeds that, you know, does pretty well almost everywhere. Conchus crispus, I said, is a cool person and has a hairdo because Conchus crispus will iridesce at the tips, so it looks like a petrel kind of on the top of the fronds, that shimmering rainbow kind of thing, and that's cool, and that's a way that you ID it. Corallina is a seaweed that forms a calcium carbonate skeleton, and that's the same as pretty much as corals, and that corals also form a calcium carbonate skeleton. So I mean, anything closely related to a coral, or not even related but closely linked, or just, you know, does the same thing, gets a lot more attention, and Corallina does. It's everyone's favourite seaweed. It's easy to ID in that there aren't many things that look like it. There's a couple of like subspecies of it, or species that look similar, but I mean, if you're going for broad things, everyone will know it's coral weed. So I said it's that friend that knows they're awesome, and they are. Overlap tuca always brightens your day. It is a bright green seaweed. It's really easy to ID. It's happy. It's just a happy seaweed in my eyes. Osmundia pinnatifida, I think that's the Latin name for it. I went with does fine on their own and likes it that way. It has an irony blood taste to it, so it keeps species away from it. It's like, no, we're good. It also is quite short and stubby, so if you're walking along and you see like this little stubby thing sticking up, it's normally like this is one of the species it could be, and so it stands up on its own, doesn't flop over when the sea goes out most of the time if it's little short ones of it, so that's why I went with that. And then kelp provides a stable environment. They are their own ecosystem. They provide an entire habitat for hundreds and hundreds of invertebrate species that live in their roots, on their person, but not only that, it shelters the rest of shores around it. Vertebrates, so fish have nurseries in there, because of the fact that the kelp will stop the currents, and it supports all the way things up to autism and that friend that can't help but mother everyone. So I put that one in there for that. So the next one kind of got ruined by the next day in the sketchbook. I didn't think that I was going to be colouring in the next one in with a pro marker which bleeds through, but I did. So this one is basically, I'm trying to think what to do for a sea pig. Someone suggested doing a sea pig, and I was like, well, I don't know, I don't know too much about sea pigs to do it, so I compared it to a land pig and an air pig. A land pig, as you know, are things that make bacon. They are super smart, and yeah, for that one. And a sea pig is a sea cucumber. I filled it in with little facts. And an air pig, obviously, is when you go, I'll do that when pigs fly. So I just said, if seen, a lot of humans will have to do what they don't want to do, because you say, I'll do that when pigs fly, because you don't want to do it and you're never going to see a pig fly. But never say never. So the next one I did very late in the day, and it led crazy thing. Basically, if you've ever seen Sweet Child of Mine, which is one of my favourite songs, and there's this like guitar solo, it's like so I decided that there are these parasites that replace the tongues of fish. So they will replace the tongues of fish, the fish will still live, and every time the fish eats, obviously that parasite gets some of the food. I mean, it's a crazy adaptation. It's so smart, but gross and crazy. But I also thought, well, what if they all teamed up and became an a cappella group and drove the fish crazy at the same time? I just liked that idea. So if you're a parasitologist and you're out there, I want to know if you've ever seen a cappella parasitic isopods, because I think they exist. The next one, I had a couple of goes at drawing this because I wanted to get like that kind of like zoomed in approach. Basically, this was a bit about perceptions. Everyone thinks, I really like a limpet, everyone's seen a limpet. So from afar, everyone's like, oh, there's a limpet. And if you see a limpet moving, I always find it's like, oh, it's moving. That's like cool. I normally just see them trying to be a rock. But actually what that limpet is doing, and they are badass and evil things, is eating diatoms. The diatoms are tiny, weeny little, we're quite big on the tiny scale, but they're weeny in terms of the big scale, cells and organisms, and they form a film across most of the rocks and things in the sea, and diatoms feed off this, and to do it they have a super strong thing called a radula, and it is actually, I think, the strongest natural material that man has ever found and that nature has ever pretty much made thus far, and it scrapes off the rock, a bit of the surface of the rock and the biofilm as it goes along. So that sweet little limpet that you're excited to see move finally is actually on a deadly killing spree. This page I love. I went with some like simple jokes. There are lobsters and there are squat lobsters, and I think this one's self-explanatory. This one is my most liked post on Instagram, and I'm very pleased that it is. I laughed my head off when I kind of came up with the idea. I just love the fact that Mr. Humpback Whale is just plonked on the top, looking really pleased with himself, like, hi guys. I would love to go and see the Notre Dame, but I think I'm now going to be forever disappointed if I get there and see it and there's not a giant humpback on top. Of course, this is a twist on the Disney film Hunchback of Notre Dame. We've changed it to Humpback. I know. I'm a genius. I started to do colour with this one. I don't like the colour, not really. But I was trying to think of something to do with the starfish. I have a really couple of good other ideas for things with starfishes in, but it would require me to take longer to draw, and it requires a bigger drawing than this square. So what I ended up settling with is the fact that there are sea fans in the sea, and fans with people are fans of stars, you know, like celebrities and stuff. So I ended up putting a couple of sea fans in. Play on words. Instead of a cuttlefish, it's a cuddlefish. Actual cuttlefishes are not very cuddly, and I don't like to cuddle at all, but these guys do. Look how cute they are. You need to practice seals. I can't draw seals. They are blobs with an eyes and a nose. There are no reference points for you. You just have to get the body proportions right. There is no like, oh, 3/4 of the way off this fin, you draw this thing. No, they're just blobs, which you'd think would be easy to draw, but for me, it's more difficult. So I thought the best way to do that is to draw 7 of them, and there's so much personality and so many cool pictures online and references to go from that I just went with days of the week. So we have Yawny Monday. What the hell is this day? Tuesday. Oh my god, it's only midweek. Wednesday. Thursday. It's close to the weekend. Friday. Way! Saturday. Yeah! Sunday. Sleeps.
This one was just a play on American impressions on the English where they go hello, 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 because if you spell it out it kind of looks like an eel.
So this is basically the thing of when you see a doggy, oh, he's a good boy. And the dogfish is like, this one is basically a swordfish. It's a sword versus dragon. Meet your doom. Dave, have you been watching too many films again? The next one was basically just as a thing of kind of think that sometimes in life you have to let off a bit of steam. It was basically hydrothermal vents linked to venting, just as a thing of sometimes guys, you've got to let it out, be more like a hydrothermal vent. So
I really
the reason
like
is a sticky in terms of there are these things called nematocysts, which are stinging cells. Basically the same as like a jellyfish would try and sting you, and an enemy does it too, but on a much smaller scale. So when you go and touch it and go whoop, and it's sticky and makes you laugh, that an enemy has just felt really bad about themselves because they have failed in their deadly attack. Don't think that that enemy was trying to do anything else but kill you because it wanted to eat you. It did. It wanted to kill you and eat you. But failing that, they retreat and suffer their losses. Poor things. If you've ever seen a penguin, it will always have pick up a penguin. It's an advert on the penguin bars, you know, the chocolate bars of a penguin. And penguins have really interesting relationships. Some will find a mate just for each year, but some will mate for life. And I thought it's very important that they have to find their mate. So I started to design a new dating app called Pick Up a Penguin. I'm not going to say too much on this. We are putting infinite amount of rubbish in our oceans. It is literal crap, and we need to fix it and find a way to reduce our plastic waste and stop thinking that the ocean is a dumping ground for us. It isn't. It isn't at all. I'm not going to say much more because. So the next one was a bit unexplained, and I kind of left it that way just as because I ran out of characters on Twitter, and also to see if anyone clocked it. Lenny and Carl in this, I realised I didn't say, is these two fishes. So this is a trumpet fish and this is a guitar fish. But they're going to orchestra auditions. So orca are killer whales, and the killer whales have rocked up and they're looking very menacing, and the poor trumpet fish and the guitar fish are going, this is not the type of orchestra I signed up for. The next day, I don't know what inspired this, apart from the fact that I'm a fan of Mario. A marine Mario version where a bobbit worm is the plant thing. You've got a turtle instead of a tortoise as another thing, and limpets instead of the little mushrooms. This next one, and I'll give him credit, we were talking, turned around and went, do you think crabs would ever be giant and take over the world? I was like, that's the best thing ever. And thus was born Crabzilla. The next day also was a suggestion about frogfish. I've actually seen a frogfish, which is really cool in Puerto Rico. I also like frogfish. They're apparently really rare to see over there, and we saw this little dude floating around. It was like super cool. So there's obviously the story of the princess and the frog, where she kisses the frog and he becomes a prince. So this is a princess. She's gone scuba diving because she's run out of land frogs, and so she's going to find a frogfish, and this dude is, frogfishes look really grumpy, so he's like, what is going on? I wouldn't want to kiss a frogfish. I've been out in the field and I had touched a sea squirt and it squirted me in the face yet again and made me jump. The sea squirts have like a stomach and an anus section, so they have like a full, almost gut system that's very similar to ours actually. So if you touch it, water can go all the way through and it kind of spurts out in your face and it will go in your eye 100% of the time. 100%, it's the most accurate, non-intentional aiming missile ever. So that was that one. I really like the angle of it and the giant finger thing. I had fun drawing that one. So deep sea research is generally thought of as non-invasive, but they're all still yellow. Every time I see a picture of like a submarine vessel or Blue Planet or anything, they're still painted in yellow, and I think that's great because it's linked to the Beatles song Yellow Submarine. And so these guys were just like, oh, we've had an mission, we are not causing any harm whatsoever. You can cause harm because they get that poor song stuck in their head for days. Pain it causes. It's very catchy, it's too catchy. Do I really keep playing this? Hammer Time song, MC Hammer, Don't Touch This. So I did the quote, this MC Hammerhead feels untouchable in his new outfit. Easy peasy. This one, okay, basically just playing the word place and place. Place is a fish, like a flatfish. It's also similar species of things like dabs and soles. So this person's like, I don't know where my place in this world is. Turns out that his pet place, Pete, has just gone to Paris and forgot to let him know where he was next at. Was like, I'm going travelling, I'll let you know where I am, and then haven't yet. So he gets a couple of Polaroids of Pete in the Eiffel Tower and a Pete with a bit of a baguette, and now he's fine because he knows where he is. Easy peasy. This one, so we're getting close to Halloween here. We're getting, this is the second to last day. Dora Day is the family that sea lemons come in. Sea lemons are nudibranchs that look a bit like a lemon, and so they're at a campfire, like an American family camp kind of thing. It's like, I heard that when humans get bad news, they take lemons and turn them into lemonade. And everyone gets scared. I quite like that. I think that was kind of a cool story in my head. But anyway, look again, smudges all the time. And finally, we have information about my own research. I study biofouling on concrete surfaces, and things like barnacles and seaweeds and stuff, they spawn. It's because they can't move, so they spawn into the sea. So they have lots of little life stages, so little things that are like plankton that swim along and find somewhere to settle. For engineers, this is a bit of a nightmare because they put their nice shiny, well, this can be a bit of a nightmare, it's not always, but can be. They put their nice shiny new concrete or metal or steel or bottom of a ship hole into the sea, and these things come along looking for a home and settle on it. And my research is working with engineers, and I'm a marine biologist, and together we're trying to come up with a way to, I said in the thing, work out how huggable concrete is and work out what hugs it. So that's what I'm spending 3 years of my life on, and that is the end of my Inktober video, my Inktober posts. Honestly, I had so much fun finding it. I think each one of those drawings probably took about an hour, some a bit less, some a bit more, on average an hour. I started trying to do it in the morning before I left for uni. That kind of cut my motivation for the day, so I did it in the evening after tea. It was really refreshing to have something new and different to think about in the back of my head all the time. If I was, got too involved in work and just needed 5 minutes out, I could kind of escape into my head, and I had so much fun. Again, I just want to say a massive, massive thank you to everyone that liked a tweet or retweeted it, and it was such a confidence boost and such an eye-opener for how I really want the rest of my website, Marine Mumbles, and my YouTube channel to go. So I haven't yet, because I haven't had time, but I am going to be setting up a comic section on my website entirely dedicated to drawing comics. I'm not going to be drawing every day, and I won't be adding any more content, as in I post every Wednesday a YouTube video. If I have more time, I will be adding on, I might post here and there on Twitter or Instagram, but I really can only dedicate one evening a week to posting at the moment. But as part of that posting, I am also now going to be including far more comic aspects. This Inktober, what I've drawn is things that I can draw in an hour, things that I've drawn in this tiny square. It was such a good experience for inspiration. I have a lot more ideas now of things that I can draw if I draw them digitally or bigger traditionally, that hopefully will be funny, make people laugh. And I know that comics are probably the way to go to get the best, most information out there. The point of my website and the point of these YouTube videos, apart from to make people laugh sometimes if it's just a silly video, is to show you how awesome that marine life is, and if I can use comics as a way to boost not myself but the message of that, then I will be super chuffed. And I will also try and maybe sell them. So starting with this comics thing, I will be uploading all this to my website, but I will also be digitally changing them. So I'm gonna draw these all out digitally. I mean, this is not something that's gonna be soon. I'm gonna do it chunk by chunk, however long it takes, as well as doing the other comic stuff, and hopefully have them available as prints, as full nice digital. Some might have colour prints, so that you guys can buy them if you want and support me and support the website and support the art supplies and stuff that is taken to make this. The other thing I would say is that actually the inks have changed my style, not because just purely down to the fact they're more difficult to use. I can draw for 8 hours straight with pens and not have a problem. In fact, I get addicted to doing that, but using inks frustrates me. You have to keep redipping and drawing stuff, and I realised that actually the art of inking is to make the biggest impact with the least lines. It's to be as precise as possible, to get your message across with the fewest things as possible, because it's so bloody irritating to use. So I really, if you're looking for a way to make your artwork simpler, to spend less time on it, just use inks. For first of all, it will frustrate you, and second of all, you'll get you're more likely to smudge it. So you, in your head, you have to make it more concise, which is what I've done with this and really enjoyed. So I know this is a lot of me talking about my experience, a lot of me drawing, and I purposely didn't record anything because I thought it's just too much faff. But I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you are inspired to try Inktober next time. If you are, make sure you tweet me every time you draw. I want to see everyone's artwork. I've had the best month seeing the amazing community online and drawing for myself. And hopefully this is the start of you guys seeing some more comics from me. But that is it for this week. Have a great week, everyone, and I will see you next week. Bye!